They can't break me down. They can't break me down.
This is Sweet Radio SVG. I'm Cleo, and it's my pleasure to reintroduce our series Life No Sugar Added. This is the program where we look at all of the issues that affect Caribbean people, issues that we generally treat as taboo. We sweep them under the grass mat. We don't really eliminate them. We don't really talk about them. And in the past, we've dealt with issues including alcoholism, lesbianism, mental health, domestic abuse, incest even. And my guest this evening, in one way or another, has been affected by almost every one of those things that I have mentioned, and he is still standing. He is resilient, he is resourceful, he's ambitious, and he is talented. He is Victor. Welcome to Sweet Radio SVG and to Life No Sugar Added.
Thank you, Cleo, for having me on your program.
Now, I know you as Victor, but there are people who know you by another name.
Yes.
What was that name?
Martin. Yes, that's actually my legal name, Martin Trimmingham Francis.
And you changed to Victor? Why is that?
Yes, because as a child, I always had the passion for performing. I would consider myself as an artist. You understand me? Because I find myself to be well-rounded in all the arts, visual and performing. So, as an artist, most artists would have a name for themselves, a name that would symbolize them, you know? So, while I was doing my conceptualizing, my second name stood out to me, Victor, which I found out later on means winner, right? Because for a very long time I had felt insecure. I had felt basically like a loser. So, Victor.
Well, for what I know of you over the years, you certainly are a winner. So I hope you no longer feel that you are a loser in any way. Let's go back, way back. Let's go back to your childhood. Tell me about your origins.
Well, I am the second of 6. I have an older sister. I have the sister after me, Cutie, Francis. She also sings with me. She has a passion for performing as well. After Cutie, it's Tiffany. Tiffany, she has a passion for modeling. She currently models for me. There's little Roxette, my little superstar, and my little brother Antoine. All of them I love so dearly.
That's wonderful.
Yes, I'm originally from Richmond Hill. I've lived all over because of my childhood, but I would say I'm originally from Richmond Hill. Yes.
And who were some of the people who you think were influential in your early days?
There were a few persons, but I must say, as a child, my grandfather has been one of my biggest inspiration along the way. My second mother, Miss Indrani Carr, who took me under her wing when she noticed that I was going through a really dark phase in school. My sister, I call her my sister. I actually knew her as my chemistry teacher from secondary school, Miss Ceci Baino. Currently, Nikki Pear, Zena Lewis, and Serena Jack. Those are persons who have impacted my life from the earlier stage until this day.
Okay. And you spoke about your grandfather. What about him that inspired you?
What inspired me about him is the love that he had for his family, right? I would say it was dynamic because he wasn't always this soft and easy on you. Because I always say, if you love somebody, you would, let them know the truth. He instilled a lot of tough love, especially when he realized that someone who he cared about was indulging in something that could be detrimental to them or, others. That's the kind of person that he is, and he's a very, I know him to be a very selfless person, very helpful.
Okay.
Yes, and he was very keen on education. He was the only person at the time. Yeah.
All right. And you said there was a dark point in your childhood. What you've described so far sounds as if you had perhaps a fairly normal childhood,
Yes.
but then it turned dark.
I would agree
At
to
what
that.
point would you say it turned dark?
The dark phase started when my grandfather died. At the time, but initially it was after he died. At that time I was in primary school. Yes, the fact that he was our main supporter, especially financially.
No, I would imagine that with a bereavement comes grief. And you did allude to the fact just now that he was your main financial provider.
Yeah,
So I suppose, one, there was a little bit of financial insecurity,
definitely.
but it sounds to me as if your grief was perhaps a bit more profound and a bit more lasting and enduring
Yes.
than most people would experience after a bereavement. Why was that?
Yes, because after he died, like I said, he seemed like the only person at the time who actually cared and showed, me love. And after that everything just went downhill. Like, you started seeing people for who they truly were. I mean, yes, there was a few family members who would have encouraged or supported along the way. Hats off to those who genuinely supported, but I always say there's also a selfish kind of support, where the individual would be looking back for something, some benefit or support in it.
The issue of your grandfather departing and being the father figure in your house, because I noticed that you're not necessarily referring to a father figure other than your grandfather, seems to have created additional hardships in your home, apart from the financial challenges and the emotional instability. There also an element of domestic abuse crept into your family.
Yes, they were, because my father, he used to be very abusive at some point towards my mother and towards us. There was actually an incident where he almost murdered me just for, standing up for my mother, just for trying to defend my mother. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear this, but yet you prevailed.
Yes, by the grace of God.
What would you say was responsible for you at such an early age being able to persevere?
My siblings, they have been the reason behind my passion and so forth, because after being in a household with a single parent, my mother was seeing all the time and so forth, and the fact that she was unfortunate, especially when it came to education. So most of the time she was unemployed and so forth. She used to try and do whatever little she could do to make ends meet. I realized that someone had to stand strong for my siblings, especially the younger ones, because I didn't want to see any of them, go down the wrong path. I want them to have someone that they could look up to and be inspired by, someone who they know of, someone who was around them. Because for me, I didn't really have that, especially after my grandfather passed.
So even in your very early years, you were already thinking like a mature adult.
Yes, I often say I didn't really have a childhood. I often say that.
And I guess the impact of that is evident in the fact that you actually had to enter remedial education, because
Yes.
I remember when I was trying to find out more about you, I went through your Facebook profile. Not that I was stalking, but
Okay.
I was
too.
trying to get some information about you, and because I was intrigued from the very first time that I met you performing at Peace Memorial Hall, and I just wanted to know more. And then I saw this post about you being a top performer in remedial education, and it struck me at that point that you had a story to tell. And then you were willing to talk to me, and I found out that your story ran so much deeper than I could ever have imagined. Tell me about the experience with remedial education.
The experience that I had to stay back in fourth form because I had to be missing a lot of classes and so forth. At one point I missed almost an entire semester because how my mother could have gotten funds for us from our father was if I went and worked with him. So because of that, I felt like I was behind the class, and I always used to say to myself, one of my goals in secondary school was to pass and achieve all of my subjects. So I had to make the sacrifice, and I stayed back in fourth form.
And you had a lot of catching up to do. How were you able to focus? There are people who don't have half as many challenges as you and just take it for granted and therefore don't put their best foot forward. But you, with all of your challenges, were able to settle down, make up all of your lost ground and move forward. What kept you focused?
Prayer. I have to say that first. And after I realized that there's still a few persons who care. At that point in secondary school, my second mother, Miss Andronica, came on board. My sister, who was my chemistry teacher at this time, Miss Bino, they took me up under their wing, and they walked along with me, educationally, emotionally, financially. And my principal, Mr. Grave as well, he was a good support at the time, a good motivator at the time for me. So I would say those. Music as well, yes, because I used to because after school you have to enter back into the dysfunction home and so forth. So I used to turn up my music and beat the box.
And not only did you get all of your subjects, you went on to the community college.
Yes.
And you went on to pursue tertiary education.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What program did you take?
I did fine arts, design and cultural communication. I did that for 1 year at community college because fashion is also a passion of mine. Anything in the arts, as I previously stated, is something that I am passionate about. After that, I went over into nursing, where I pursued an associate's degree in registered nursing, and I'm now a licensed staff nurse at Accident and Emergency, Milton Cato Memorial Hospital.
Excellent strides.
Thank you.
And you said that you did fine arts and cultural communication. Now, it is one thing to do fine arts when you're doing visual arts, But when you get to performing arts and designing, as a male, people start looking at you and challenging you. And
Definitely.
what made you just brave it, stick it out, and go through with that passion?
Well, I go by a wise person once say, people would always have something to say, whether you're doing bad or good. So I always say, you know, once I am comfortable in what I am doing, that is most important to me. Yes, the negatives would come, but I turn a blind eye to the negative and I focus on the positives, because that is what matters the most. I always say, you know, the time people could take to say something bad or do something mean to someone, you can take that energy and put it into doing something good, you know, which eventually could make a big difference in someone's life.
Indeed, indeed. And what inspired your interest in fashion design?
Like I observed those things from a very young age, you know. I always had passion for music, fashion, you know. I just like to see, you know, people looking good and taking care of themselves. Fashion has actually been a therapy of mine, you know. I always tell people, you know, you don't dress to impress, you dress to feel good about yourself. You know, that was some reassurance for me, basically.
Okay. So how long now have you been designing?
Independently, it would be 2 years now. Yes, 2 years now. My small business would be 2 years now.
Okay. And what were some of the highlights of that 2-year journey?
Well, I came across a few good people, like my friend Serena Jack, Nikki Pear. Serena has been a big support, especially when it comes to my fashion, you know, because there was a point in time, especially around the COVID time, when, you know, much wasn't really happening, because at the time I was just surviving from that, you know, my fashion and so forth. She would always make arrangements, find something for me to design, to do a photo shoot, just to showcase my business, you know, just to show people what I am capable of. And, you know, I love when people could trust me to do the work. I mean, you tell me what you want, tell me what you like. I have the designer eye and the designer ear, so I would already have, you know, preconceived ideas of what you're interested in.
You spoke about the challenges that everybody and their brother experienced during COVID, but what are some of the other challenges that you experienced as a young fashion designer?
As a male fashion designer as well, like I say, people would have the negative comments and so forth, but once again, I turn a blind eye to the negatives and focus on the positives.
And what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What's your vision for your business? You've not yet told us the name of your business.
Yes, so my business is Victorious Fabrications. The reason why it is called that, because I want everyone who uses my service to feel like a winner, because everyone deserves to feel, you know, important, to feel, basically be a winner, you know. Yes, and my slogan is, don't just wear the look, be the look, become your own look, you know, be true to you.
And you switched from arts and design to nursing. Why did you do that?
It's actually because, like I say, with the fashion design, it's more seasonal, especially for a young upcoming fashion design. I mean, I'm part of the fashion association and so forth. Finance has been a core factor for that as well. So I also have a passion for nursing as well, but the reason why I ventured into it and then just stick to the fashion alone is for financial stability. I would say.
Okay. And how has the nursing program been going?
Ever since I've started back, it's been hectic, but besides that, I am grateful for the patients. I'm grateful for my patients, having to touch a life every day, inspire every day, and vice versa. So that in that aspect, I would say it's great.
You said since you started back, was there a break?
Yes, I took 2 years to focus on developing my brand, Victoria's Fabrications.
Okay. So as a child, you've had challenges, including witnessing domestic abuse, you've had emotional insecurity after your granddad died, and you've had some financial challenges. And that followed you almost right into secondary school. But you went on and you did your courses, you qualified in different areas, and things seemed to be smoothing out for you.
By the grace of God, yes.
And then tragedy struck again. Tell us about that.
Well, that was an incident that occurred, I think was in April. I can't even remember because I already, put that back in the past, where I was a victim of a house fire. I was actually going to sleep, but then something just told me to get up and go down the road to get some groceries and so forth. So at the same time, a client had messaged me in regards to an outfit. So while they're communicating with the client, I started smelling like smoke. So I thought it was the neighbors next door, because most of the time they usually would be burning stuff. And then I realized that I started seeing like smoke coming in the house, and it started getting thicker. So something told me to get up and look over, to the other part of the apartment, because there's a space there I could climb up and look over. And in the other room there was a towel on fire, and there was a guy there who is a relative of the landlord. Apparently something transpired between him and the family who were living in the upstairs as well. I tried saving some of my stuff, but I wasn't able to save anything but the clothes on my back and a bag, my go-to bag,
And this is the fire that we heard about in Murray Village?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was the fire. So what I did, I tried after I noticed the fire and so forth, I went down and I told the landlady that the guy is lighting fire in the house. So I told her to call the police, and she told me to help her out the fire. So I tried using a bucket of water to try and out and so forth, but he kept lighting it back, and he was using a substance to make it more flammable and so forth. And apparently, I don't know who called the fire truck, but they came, but I thought someone said that there was another vehicle blocking it and so forth. It took them a good, I would say, almost 45 minutes to get there. Yeah, by the time they came, they just had to leave the fire to, finish its course.
What was the impact of that fire to you? You said you escaped with just the clothes on your back, which means all of your investments in Victoria's Fabrications, in Victor himself.
Yes.
Everything had been lost.
Yes, I felt like I lost a piece of me, because I had a lot of my, test exam papers and so on. I used to like to look back whenever I feel, a little low and so forth, I used to like to look back and see. I had a folder dedicated to that, all of my sketches from a little child, coming up. I used to like to look back at it to give myself some assurance and say, this is what you achieved. And so forth. I lost that. I lost my sewing machines. I lost a few client stuff. I was basically homeless, but I'm grateful for my friends, especially Zena Lois, who was the first person to respond, and she took me into her home. She made me feel very much welcome, like a brother and so forth.
It was a very almost all-consuming fire. Did you suffer any personal injury?
Yes, I suffered a burn scar to my left foot. Also, I had to defend myself against the guy because he became very aggressive and violent after he realized that me and the landlady was trying to out the fire. So he managed to struck me in the head. I have a laceration, but it's healed now. It still feels a bit tender on the inside. Yeah. But I told them that I won't press any charges and so forth because I knew this guy prior to this happening. I didn't know him to be a violent individual or what's that. And that same week he gave me a piece of encouraging advice. I always say there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. As strange as it might sound, I try to look at it in a more civil way, In regards to the way I was treated, I would say I wasn't really pleased because I felt less of a person in the situation. The fact that I tried to help save this place, because I initially, by the time when I noticed the fire and so forth, I could have saved most of my stuff, but at the time I was just focusing on trying to save the home and so forth. They didn't even no one called the ambulance because I was there bleeding out. I didn't even know I was bleeding until it's the landlady who showed me, with everything going on, showed me that I was losing blood. So they didn't even offer me a ride down. Its residents there was saying I should take a ride with them and so forth, but they wanted me to ride in the back with the same guy because they were going to take him down to the police station as well.
So this is the police officer you're talking about?
The officers at the time. But eventually one of the officers who was in the front driving, he told me to come inside in the front. So I drove down with them. When I went there, I barely had on clothes. I just managed to had on a pant that had no belt in there. My shirt was opened. And I don't know what was the position of the officer there at the entrance, but he seemed like a superior, and the way he spoke to me, I felt like if I was a criminal, he treated me like basically less than an individual until when they heard that I am a nurse. That is when they started to change the way in which they approached me and so forth. I had to go and see the doctor at Accident and Emergency where I'm currently working now, but they still didn't offer me a ride there or anything. They expected me to walk through town the way I was. It was not a good sight at all.
The ambulance had not been called?
No, the ambulance had not been called. So I searched my go-to bag and I had $120, and I am so grateful for Mr. Gibson taxi. I didn't know him at the time, but that is the time I met him, some people would look at you as, you're probably crazy or something. The way I looked, I didn't look like myself because of the whole situation. But he accommodated him and he took me right down to the hospital and so forth, and yeah.
I want to take you back. I know this is difficult because we're basically tearing scabs off.
Yes, definitely.
I am so sorry.
I'm actually speaking about it right now, I'm actually revisiting the time.
I just want to ask you one more thing about that. You said that the officer who you met at the station was not necessarily very compassionate. Was he aware of the fact that you were a victim of a fire at your home?
I am not sure, but regardless, I don't think that is a professional way to treat anyone.
Okay. You think he may have jumped to a certain conclusion?
Yeah, he already had preconceived the way he dealt with the situation.
I'm sorry to have to take you back there, but as always, you rebounded. Yes. And you're well on the mend. What has the road to recovery been like in terms of getting back on your feet, in terms of your professional career, Victorious Fabrications, and just you healing as a person?
Well, like I said, I'm grateful for my friends. Serena and Nikki. I'm grateful for my siblings. My mother, who was trying to be there for me emotionally and somewhat financially as well. I got some support from a few individuals, the organization from Ottawa that assisted. Sorry, I forget the entire name.
The SVG Association of Ottawa.
Yes, the SVG. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm grateful for the assistance that I had so far. And Victorious Fabrication had some support from our regular customers. I got a few orders and so forth. But like I say, in the fashion industry here, it's more seasonal. You would more get orders in the carnival season or Christmas season and Easter. Yeah.
What do you see as the vision for Victorious Fabrications?
For the Victorious Fabrication, it's not always to be number one, but I want it to be that organization or company that anyone could come to, and feel important, feel accepted, because we cater for all gender types. That is what I see for Victorious Fabrications.
And if someone wanted to contact you, how would they reach you?
They can reach me at Victorious Fabrications on Instagram or my business contact 1784-492-5811.
Let's talk about you as a performing artist. What are some of the major productions that you've been involved in?
I've been in Jumbie Lego, that was with Focus Entertainment. I'm not sure what's going on with the group right now, but that was one of my biggest performances so far. In terms of my role, was when I was the president of the Division of Nursing Education Performing Arts president. I was also a part of a group called Artists. I'm also not certain about where that group is right now. It's dormant right now, and as you know, because of COVID and so forth, I guess that's why much isn't really happening now. That is another that was another big performance that I could remember.
Now, a lot of us, I know you said early in your life you found that music was therapeutic to you. A lot of us love music, and we like songs, but we like to think that we can sing when we really can't. But you like music and you can sing. When did you realize that you could sing?
I realized that I could sing when I first performed auditioned, for the Performing Arts Society of SVGCC.
So this was a late development in your life?
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily, but I used to have a lot of self-doubt, because of the persons around me. Oftentimes they would say I sung feminine or so on, but we have everyone has, a different song. I used to be somewhat insecure about it in my early days, so there never used to be much coming from these lips vocally until when I auditioned with that group, and the executives and the members there made me realize, yeah man, Victor, you got what it takes.
What gave you the confidence to audition in the first place?
My friend at the time, Lilicia Simmons, yes, she encouraged me to audition, and I think I heard a performance from the group when I recently went in to college, and I liked the performance, so I saw it as a risk taking in a sense. I just wanted to express that aspect of me at the time. Yeah.
And what, other than that audition, what would you say are some of the highlights of the vocal sphere of your career?
Well, we had performed at the University of the West Indies Open campus, an original song that was written by me and my sister. Yes, we had put together a little group called the Dynamic Impulse, so everyone had a hand in that song. I would say that would be one of the biggest highlights.
How was that received?
It was well received.
Is it recorded?
It's recorded, but I do not have the recording currently. I have a snippet on my Instagram page, Victorious Fabrications. I have a snippet there.
That was No Time for Letting Go, something originally composed by Victor and friends. Victor, what's the story behind that song?
This song basically encompasses everything that, I have gone through, my siblings have gone through, and I think it's something that anyone from any walks of life can gravitate to or relate to, And I always say the first song that I would, because I have a lot of other songs, just on paper, the first song that I would like to share publicly would have to be one that inspires,
And as you said, it really encapsulates your entire story. And I hope that one of these days you'll actually be able to record it professionally and release it, whether as a single or a part of an album, a victorious album.
Yes, man. Something would be in the works soon.
I look forward to it. Okay, you're into so many different things. You sing, you draw, you are a designer, a fashion designer, and you make clothing. You're a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself going? You have such an inspiring story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many options in life. Where do you see yourself going?
I see myself being great. That's all I could give you right now. I aspire to inspire. After every setback that I face in life, I tend to evaluate the situation and then just throw it behind me. Because I find that there would always be something that persons could be inspired by.
I suppose as you go along, you're lining up all of the dots to ensure that you achieve that goal.
Definitely.
I have no doubt, Victor, that you're going to be successful, because despite every setback, you just use that as a stepping stone to greater and greater accomplishments. So I have absolutely no doubt that you are going to accomplish whatever you set your mind to. I want to thank you for being with me and for bearing your soul on this program, Life No Sugar Added. It must have been a challenge for you, and I know it took you to some very unhappy places.
Definitely.
But I am thankful that you shared your story, and I'm sure that your story, as have been all of our stories, will be an inspiration to somebody to somebody who is perhaps raising a child who is going through the challenges that you went through in your life, or perhaps somebody in your age group or even older who has experienced what you have experienced and feel that all is lost. You are a living example that it is far from finished when disaster strikes. I want to wish you, from all of us here at Sweet Radio SVG, all of the very best, and we will continue to be looking out for you and supporting you in all of your endeavors. And I think I speak for you when I say we want to thank all of the people who were involved in supporting you along the way.
Very grateful.
Special thanks to Indrani Kaur,
Yeah.
because maybe if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. So special thanks to Indrani. This has been Life No Sugar Added on Sweet Radio SVG. It's the first program in our new season, and my first guest is Victor of Victoria's Fabrications, formerly known as Martin Trimmingham. And he spoke on so many different issues, from childhood abuse, domestic abuse, from emotional loss and grief, and from financial tragedy, not only as a child having lost the main breadwinner, but also as an adult having lost everything he owned, and yet still he's here. Life No Sugar Added, Sweet Radio SVG. Thank you for joining us.
They can't break me down.